hype, hype. Come with me tonight's the night. Can't you see? I wanna be with you. Hype, hype. Come with me tonight's the night.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to E20 Zone TV. What a mad 24 hours it has been. This man has returned to E20 Zone TV from his 9-month loan out all around the world. Do you know what I'm saying? Clive, how are you doing, son?
Yeah, can't complain at all. Obviously returning at what seems to be a pivotal point for West Ham, considering the changes that have happened in the last 24 hours, really.
Yeah. Well, first off, what did you make of Lopetegui, and how do you feel about Potter?
So Lopetegui, I never thought was the right fit. Obviously, fan base didn't want Moyes in the sort of job that we were getting the results with. I mean, we saw the whole Twitter meltdown, didn't we? We would rather be fighting relegation if we're playing better style football. Well, here we are playing towards the relegation end of the table with a team that were sloppy at the back. Didn't play much better, if you're brutally honest. Even teams that we beat, such as Ipswich 4-1, we did that shamefully. Yes, we took our chances, but the goals we could have conceded that game was ridiculous. So he needed to go. Do I think the club handled it correctly? Probably not. Saying that, Lopetegui's got a history of doing similar situations, leaving Wolves the week of the Premier League start, and the whole Spain and Real Madrid debacle when he was there a few years back and during the World Cup. So sometimes you get what comes around. And I think, considering how West Ham has dealt with this situation, isn't the best. Lopetegui maybe got what he deserved ultimately. With Potter, it's a bit of a difficult one because his records are not great. His win percentage is just over 30% with both Chelsea and Brighton. But people need to remember that his time at Brighton, he took on a team that was relegation fighting. And during his time defensively, Brighton had improved a lot. They just didn't score a lot. And that is a big concern for me. They did get rid of key players that, if you look at now, have really worked out. If you look at the Swedish bloke that's at Sporting, I don't know how to say his last name, Gyökeres or whatever.
Yeah, Gyökeres.
Yeah, look at him, 50 goals, 50 games. Incredible player, but, he left Brighton. Brighton didn't want to keep him on. They didn't think he was good enough. So ultimately, I think it's going to be interesting. It's going to be difficult to see. It'll be interesting to see if we make any progress in this transfer window. I think if we do, it will probably be something that we don't usually do, which will be a few differences, few signings. But I think we could potentially see a couple of players go as well in this window.
For me, today's been a sort of a nice relief, if I'm being honest. Like, to actually see everyone happy for once. I still see people. Shout out to Sean, everyone who knows who Sean is. He's on fucking podcast, slagging it off before it's even started. So the usual suspects are all going to be negative. But on this channel, I'm not going to be negative. Like, in life, you have to give someone a chance, and we're going to give Potter a chance on this one. And as I said yesterday, with Lopetegui, it was just never going to work out. He just wasn't the right guy for where we wanted to go. Do you know what I'm saying? But we're going to get into this match preview. How do they go around it this week, Clive? Obviously, one training session with Potter. Yeah. They've had all the ups and downs with Lopetegui this week, i.e. taking training sessions, different voices. What are you expecting tomorrow night?
Do you know what? I don't actually know what I'm even expecting. And the reason I say this is because we know what the contract situation was, which was with Potter, we wanted to give him 6 months. And now it's a 2.5-year deal, but he has to ultimately hit some objectives. Now, obviously, I would anticipate there's a Premier League objective there, but I do wonder if there's an FA Cup objective in there. This is our one and only shot, essentially, to have a cup run because the EFL Cup didn't exactly go down very well. But we're against an opposition that's very tough. They've performed very well in the last 2 or 3 years, and as you've said, Potter's had one day. He's had today to really look at the team. So it's very hard to say what to expect. I don't think we're going to see much different system-wise or starting 11-wise to what we saw with Lopetegui, if I'm very honest, because it's not enough time for anyone to really know what they want to do. But I think he's going to make some tweaks, but I don't think it'll be much. And I'm just riding on the fact that I'm hoping Villa will be thinking more about their final 2 games in the Champions League, that perhaps the FA Cup they sort of don't play very well. But I'm not really looking forward to tomorrow night.
I'm looking forward to it to see what they do. That's the first thing. Like, it'd be interesting to see if there is a manager bounce. Nothing would surprise me if West Ham went up there and won tomorrow. Right, it's just that's the West Ham way to a point. Obviously, this week's been disrupted from the ownership. I don't really blame Lopetegui. I don't really blame Potter for this. I blame the ownership for dragging it out for so long. So tomorrow night is going to be interesting. It's going to be 6,000 West Ham fans up there. Obviously, they're without Duran. He loves to score a goal against us. And I do think if we can go up there and get everyone gets behind the team for once, to just keep sitting on the sidelines and pointing fingers and pointing the blame game, then we might have half a chance of doing something tomorrow. Am I expecting to win there tomorrow? No, I'm not. I'm going to be honest. I think Villa might turn us over tomorrow, but I'm going up there with a bit more confidence than I did a week ago. Do you know what I'm saying? So we've really got to look at that. I think with Potter, is he going to play a high line? I don't think so. I think he's going to be a bit more mid to low block. I think he's going to be hard to beat. I think he's going to be a man who can come in and really sort of galvanise the team to a point. And that's what we need. We need someone who's going to start shouting at people, getting in people's faces and telling them about themselves. And I don't think Lopetegui had the balls or the sort of cojones, as they say in Spain, to do that. He had to sort of. He's got to get into these players. Paqueta's got to turn up. Alvarez has got to turn up. If Tadebo's fit, he's got to turn up. So many of them have got to turn up tomorrow. I'm going to be honest. What is your starting 11 for tomorrow, Clive?
I think. Oh, do you know what? I think it's actually a tough one. Because goalkeeping wise, it's going to be very interesting. Because does Potter go with the person he wants to have a cup run with, and whoever he chooses as goalie, is that now his second goalie in terms of versus the person who he's going to use in the league? If that's the case, I think we see Fabianski starting.
Did Potter have Fabianski at Swansea? I can't remember if he did or not. Or is that going back way too long? Or maybe
I think that's too far back. I think
Yeah.
it's too far back because I think back then Potter would have still been in Denmark or wherever he was.
Sweden,
Yes, one of those, wasn't it? But I think we start with Fabianski in goal, and he's now going to be positioned as number 2 goalkeeper, and we'll return to Areola being our league goalie going forward.
Yeah. So with goalkeeper, we saying Fabianski then? Yeah,
I believe so. Yeah, I do.
Right, left back. What are you saying?
Left back.
I know.
Well, I think. Do you know what? I'm going to say this in a weird way. I reckon it could be Cresswell, and I know that sounds awful, but I genuinely think it could be Cresswell. I think if you're going to see changes, it will be in our defensive outlook because, as I say, a day with Potter is not a lot. But defensively, Potter is very on it, and he showed that in Brighton. So I think we're going to see some changes. It might not necessarily be for the better, but he also might be just looking at the fact that, if we don't get through this cup game, we do have Fulham at the weekend.
Well, what it is, we've got Fulham on Tuesday, and then we've got Palace on the week, innit?
Tuesday, sorry. Yeah, sorry,
Yeah.
not the weekend. You know what I meant.
Yeah.
Midweek is what I meant. Yeah, I think because we've got Fulham only a few days later, I think you could see some changes here, and I think Cresswell will be our left back, to be honest.
Do you reckon he's going 4-3-3 then? Is that what you
I
think?
do think so. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
we're going to see some formation changes, but in terms of players, it's not going to be a huge change up as such. I think maybe defensively we'll see a few, but going forward, no.
I think left back. I think he's going to have to go with someone, i.e., either Wan-Bissaka or Cresswell. If Emerson's not fit or he's not available, if Emerson's fit, he plays. I think I think he will literally put out his best team that he can sort of muster, because this is a big game for West Ham. Right, not being funny. If we go out of this, that's it. Season over to a point at the minute. So if Emerson's fit, he plays for me. But Cresswell wouldn't surprise me. Right back, would you say Wan-Bissaka, isn't it?
Yeah, Wan-Bissaka on the right back. Again, like you say with Emerson in terms of the left back situation, I think also because of his injury is why I reckon we'll go with Cresswell. Because like you say, we've got 2 more games in what 8, 9, 10-day period maximum.
Yeah.
There, it's not a lot.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Centre halves, Keelman is probably a yes.
Kilman, yeah.
What do you reckon on Tadibo?
Lackluster, however, I'm going to put it down to lack of Premier League experience. I think he will improve. He is 25, but I don't think he's up to the speed of the game, or perhaps it was just the style that Lopetegui was putting forward. It's hard to really say, because you could ultimately say a lot of players have underperformed. I mean, Kilman has been great in the sense of some of his like assists, and when we go up for corners and scoring and aspects like that. But I would even say Kilman, for the cost of what he has made a lot of mistakes defensively. So centre back wise, I'm very concerned and hoping that Potter is something that he's going to work on.
I understand what people are saying in the chat there about giving Casey a try and all that. He ain't going to do it. Right, he's going to go with his tried and tested here, because basically his reputation's on the line. He goes and starts playing youngsters, it don't work out. People are going to say, why are you playing youngsters in an FA Cup game? You know what I mean? When we need to win the game.
I think the major changes that we might actually see in this is probably the substitutions. I think we're going to see a lot of youngsters on our bench. And the reason behind that is I think we're going to see certain players that Potter doesn't want. Now, a player that springs to mind for me would be someone like Rodriguez, because obviously he was brought over from Betis. And that's obviously a close link with Pellegrini, but I don't see a place for him in this West Ham squad under Potter. And I think the players that he wants to sell, either in this window or in the summer, are the players that you're not going to see at all in this squad.
Yeah, it's more than right. Kilman and Tadibo for me. Tadibo's got to get fit. Simple as that. He has to be fit. Like, if he's not fit in this game, fuck me. You might as well buy him and then loan him out for a season to somewhere else. Midfield, Clive, which has been a major talking point. People have been knocking Thomas Souček today. What do you make of the 3-man midfield? What is the 3-man midfield for you?
Well, Souček to play and captain the squad, so that's nice and easy. We need leadership in the team. I think midfield-wise is where we're going to have to look for that leadership, because ultimately there is a bit of a leader in Kilman in centre-back-wise, but he's still new to the team, new to the squad, and as I say, he's made the errors this season. Souček's definitely in there. I think Alvarez has had a very bad season so far. He does a lot of sloppy things, such as his yellow cards, and we saw that last season as well. But I still think you play him in this, and I think we have the 2 CDMs that we've seen prior, sort of working on that in that aspect, and I think you're still going to see Alvarez in there. You're going to see Souček in there, and then I think you're going to see Paqueta just ahead. I think that is our 3-man. Like I say, I don't think we're going to see a huge amount of change. Maybe the left back is the only change that I can see being a major talking point, along with the goalkeeper, because we don't know what's going to happen after this game.
Yeah, it's true. I actually agree. Souček will probably captain the side, most likely. Alvarez has got to shape up. He's another one who seems to get a pass and everyone blows smoke up his arse. Like, this is a Mexican enforcer, apparently, who's scared to header a football. He done it last week against Manchester City. He was shit scared to header the ball away within the first goal. He's got to do it there this time. Paqueta also is another one on the hit list. He's another one who's got to improve. I also believe some of these players are going to be looking, and you will know tomorrow which ones are up for it and which ones ain't. And we will find out on that. I agree with Clive, though. That's the three-man midfield for me. Let's go to the attack line. Who goes over to the left-hand side for you in the three-man attack?
I think this is where we now get to finally see the players that we would want to see in the correct positioning. I think you're going to see left wing Somerville. I think you're going to see right wing Kudus, and I think you're going to have a centre forward in Fulkrug. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's funny because I'd seen a lot of Fulkrug hate and sort of him being written off, but people forget a very good player in the Bundesliga, and I know the Bundesliga is a different league and isn't as well renowned as the Premier League, but good players come from Dortmund, and I do think he's good. And given the chances, he has scored on those chances. And yes, not a great start because he came in injured, but I think he'll come to use in this second half of the season. I think there's a lot of talk that we need a striker, and we do, because ultimately we've bought a 31-year-old, which mind blown. Don't know why. But obviously Bowen could be used as a centre forward, not going to happen. And as devastating as the situation to Mikel Antonio is, he had 16 appearances this season, only one goal.
Yeah.
It's not a lot. And I know a lot of people will know that I've criticised Antonio multiple times over the due course of being on here. I still wouldn't wish ill of someone. However, I think the injury is a somewhat fortunate thing for West Ham. And the reason I say this is because it's now put a situation where we have to move forward without him. Yes, his contract was coming to a close, but we were still using a guy that's turning 35 soon. Like, we needed to move past him.
If anything, it's forced their hand. That's what
it has. But whether it's forced our hand early to making another striker error, I don't know. I think if we do bring in a striker, we need to bring in someone cheap and someone that's just going to be a backup, because Fulkrug in the long term is not a long-term investment. He's there for a couple of years. And this is where we needed someone young, that Duran, that we could have had.
I like the front three. I probably agree with you. That's the most likely front three. I would like to see Lewis Guillem in this game. I see Kevin in the chat there saying about it. I think you need to see this man in action. I don't want to see this man be playing like 8 minutes and 7 minutes and all that. I want to see this man play like at least an hour, like, to see what he's all about. If he's that good, if he's going to be the next big thing and the next world beater, he's got to get on the pitch and play. Do you know what I'm saying? I think it's a big game for Crescencio Somerville. Also, I think he needs to sort of come into his own. And do you know what? It's like, it is a free hit to a point, but it's a game where I need to see us perform more. That's the first thing.
Like I said to you, I think this bench is going to be heavy on the youngsters, and players that we're not going to see on that team are going to be the ones that are going to be exiting. And I have a feeling that you're going to see certain players not in that lineup at all. And I do think one of those players that's not going to be in that lineup at all is going to be someone like Andy Irving. You're going to see players like Casey and Skulls that are actually going to be on the bench and probably played. I think we're going to see Lewis.
Don't
know how to say. Kumaria, whatever he's called.
Lewis Guillem.
Don't know how to say his surname. But I think we're going to see players like that playing a lot more minutes in this game.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued to see if Carlos Soler is even going to be in the squad, because I would be intrigued to see if we're going to see his loan terminated, perhaps.
Maybe.
And if we do, that could mean that JWP returns to West Ham.
Which is a bit mad, honestly. It's just a merry-go-round for the stuff. Right, let's come to this. Score predictions time. Clive, what are you saying for tomorrow?
I'm going to be realistic, and I think defensively we're still going to slip up. I think it's too early for a changeover unless the players were really not playing well because of the manager. If that's the case, then we're probably going to lose 2-1, but I think realistically 3-1. I think we're quite inept at the back at the moment.
Something's leaning towards a draw for me, and it goes to pens. Right, I'll just see what Del says there. Yeah, nothing would surprise me if West Ham won this fucking game. Nothing would, because every time we're up against it, we seem to put a result out of nowhere. If we can go to Villa and win, then the season's back on, because you got the FA Cup, and we could get top 10. Like, we go on a bit of a run, and if we get a new manager bounce, and if he can get all these big hitters playing, we could end up in the top 10. Right? It happened. Last season, it happened with Palace, where Palace went on a run under Glasner, and they finished 10th, I think it was. We could go on a run, and we could finish 10th. Yeah, because I don't think we're going to finish any higher, and I think we will suffer a few defeats on the way. But tomorrow night, I'm going to be honest, I fancy us to win. Nothing would surprise me. I think as a how the week has gone, it would not surprise me West Ham went up there and won. It really wouldn't. And they sort of, everyone shows up, the fans show up, the players show up, the new manager shows up, and we all come together and we go, right, we're going to go to Villa and win. So I'm going to go with, I'm going to go with my heart. My head's saying a draw, penalties, but my heart's saying 2-1 West Ham. I think West Ham come out the traps. I think Potter's going to get them going. I think it'd be 1-0 at one stage, and I feel late in the second half, I think West Ham might nick it 2-1. I just feel that maybe this is what we need as a fan base to galvanise us, because it has been quite depressing over the last sort of 6 months in regards of 1 step forward, 3 steps back, and you don't know where you're going. Do you know what I'm saying? So yeah, I'm gonna go for 2-1 West Ham, and who scores? Only use the side. Do you know what I'm saying on that? Right.
It's going to be one of those where it'll be a corner goal. It'll be someone like Kilman or Souček that scores, I reckon.
Yeah. What do you make, before we wrap this video up, Clive? What do you make of obviously Potter moving forward though, into the future? Like this season, what is the expectation for him this season? What's he got to do for everyone to be happy?
I think realistically, if we look at how many points we've actually galvanized so far this season, we're just over halfway in the season. We've done 20 out of the 38 games. We've only got 23 points. I think if we end up on somewhere between 45 and 50 points, I think that's a good showing.
Yeah.
Looking at the table, like you said, we could hit into 10th place because there's only 5 points between ourselves and Brighton. The downside is there are 2 teams there that haven't lost many games, and that is Fulham and Brighton, but they've just drawn a lot of games. And we've got to remember, on the bottom half of the table with us is Spurs and Manchester United, that I wouldn't be surprised if they go on winning runs at some point in the season. So I do think it will be harder for us to get anywhere above 12th. I think if we can finish 12th, but a solid gap between ourselves and, say, the bottom 5 of the league, I think that's a solid tenure, we will say, over a 5-month period, essentially. I'm not fully convinced on Potter, but that's just on his previous records. But he came across really well this morning. And I'm intrigued to see what he does and what he achieves. I do have a feeling as time goes on, if he does continue next season, I don't think he'll be the fan base choice in terms of the style of play, etc. I don't. I just don't see it being well received in the long term, and that's the problem. So I think just to get us through this season, he'll be a good nick, but I'm concerned in the longevity of this one.
I don't know. I'm a little bit different on that one. For me, I think this season you find out who wants to be at West Ham and who don't. I think the next 5 months you got look at all the players, and I do mean all of them, and you go right. Who wants to really be here and fight for the shirt, and who really don't? I think in the next sort of 5 6 months he can assess all the players. He can look at the youth players who are coming through. I think he's more likely to give a chances to obviously Potts who's doing well, and I want to see that. I want to see like Freddie Potts next season. Like if he's good enough to play for Pompey right now and he's doing well, I think he should be given an opportunity. I see Arsenal do it. I see other clubs do it. I think we should start doing it. Um, I think with the style of play discussion, I think people have got to let that one go. Really, right? This geezer's right. As long as this geezer gets us results and gets us where we want to be, and that is in Europe, right? However he plays, if it's effective, then who really cares what the style of play is? Do you know what I'm saying? He ain't going to be like Moyes, but he's going to be a defensive manager who knows how to sort of control patterns of play, like in that sort of defensive sort of block. But nevertheless, I'm happy that I think he's the right man for us now. Do you know what I'm saying? And we needed someone now. Otherwise, it was just going to go down. It was just going to go down the pan to a point. And really, you can't ruin what's happened over the last sort of 4 years to let it go in 6 months, a year, and then we've got to start again because it could take us 5 years to get back into Europe. Especially when you look at the likes of Villa, Newcastle, Nottingham Forest, even Brighton. They're all teams that are up and coming, and even Bournemouth to a point. Another team that's sort of gone up and coming. So I'm going to give him time because he's going to need time. He's going to need a transfer window. Right, this window he's going to need a transfer window in the summer, and then we'll go from there and we assess it there. But I think when it comes to style of play for me, I think we've had that discussion over the last 18 months, and I think we've realised the style of play really means fuck all. When you need a manager who can actually get the best out of the players that he's got, you can have a manager that knows what sort of style he's trying to do and work from that to a point. I will say that. Clive, any final words from you, mate?
No, I think you've covered it quite well. As you say, I think style of play doesn't matter, but it's whether the fan base agrees with that. That's the big thing. It
Mm.
went against Moyes. I think maybe now because we've seen the grass isn't greener, maybe it'll be fine. But I mean, the reason I have concerns with Potter is, I mean, look at Everton. They've parted ways with Sean Dyche today. They talk about the style of play, and then every manager that seems to be mentioned with Everton are all defensive managers.
Mm.
Mourinho, no different, very defensive. Now David Moyes, well, we know the fan base's thoughts on him. So, it's. I think the fan base needs to really get a check on themselves sometimes, and I'm hoping maybe the last few months has maybe enabled it because realistically we're now a long way off our goals, and I think depending on how we finish the season, we could be in a position where we're losing a lot of those players that could have elevated us had we not had the start to the season that we've had. But ultimately, the players have also got to accept responsibility for the shortcomings so far.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, mate. I really do. Smash like on the video, subscribe to E20 Zone TV, and hitting that notification bell. Tomorrow night, watch along. Be here. I will be doing a watch along, probably with Clive if he fancies it, and we will go
I'll
from
be
there.
here.
And we'll be watching it and seeing how Potter does. My final thought is this: listen, it's a new era, new beginning. We've got Potter, not Harry, but Graham, and we're going to see how good this man really is. And do you know what? It's a free sort of reign with him from now to the end of the season. And anyone who says about getting him
Well,
out right now is a joke.
you say we don't have Harry Potter, but isn't Hagrid going to the game?
Oh, Agri's there. Lucas will
Yeah,
be there. Okay.
Hagrid's going. So you're a wizard, Harry.
Yeah. Lucas, have a good time, mate. And Jay, both of them will be there tomorrow. And I will see you again very, very soon. Peace.